The stars stretched across the view screen like diamonds scattered on black cloth, stood on the bridge of his command ship, studying the small blue planet below. Earth, the humans called it. His four eyes blinked slowly as he reviewed the data. Primitives, he muttered in his deep, rumbling voice. Look at them, scattered across their single world like insects. His second-in-command, officer, nodded in agreement. The scans show they fight among themselves constantly. They have over 200 separate governments. They waste resources on conflicts instead of unity. Clicked his mandibles together, a gesture of satisfaction. The collective had conquered 847 worlds. This would be 848, an easy victory to add to his record. Their bodies are weak, continued, reading from his data pad. No natural armor, no claws or venom. They require constant food and water. Their temperature tolerance is limited. They are fragile creatures. What weapons do they have? Asked. Primitive chemical explosives, metal projectiles fired by controlled explosions, some energy weapons but crude compared to ours, no shields, no plasma technology. Looked up. They still use fossil fuels for transportation. They are centuries behind us. Felt the satisfaction of an easy conquest ahead, the lived for battle. Their culture demanded strength. They had crushed every species that refused to bow. These humans would be no different. Send the diplomatic message, ordered. Give them the standard terms, surrender or face destruction. On Earth, in a conference room deep beneath the mountains of South Korea, Ambassador Ha read the alien message for the third time. Her hands did not shake, though her heart pounded in her chest. Around the long table sat representatives from every major nation. For the first time in human history, they were truly united. They want complete surrender, she said quietly. They want us to disarm, to submit to their rule, to become part of their empire. General Ho stood at the head of the table. He was a tall man with gray hair and sharp eyes that had seen too many battles. What do we know about them? Defense Coordinator Me pulled up holographic displays. The collective. They control hundreds of worlds. Their military is advanced but not incomprehensible. They rely heavily on energy shields and plasma weapons. They value honor in combat and prefer direct confrontation. That last part is important, Ho said. He looked around the room. They think we are weak. They think we will panic and surrender. We are weak compared to them, said a European general. Their soldiers are 8 feet tall. They have technology we can barely understand. They have fought and won hundreds of wars. Ho smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. They have fought hundreds of wars against aliens like themselves. They have never fought humans. He turned to me. How long until they arrive? If they deploy immediately, 3 weeks. Then we have 3 weeks to prepare. Ho pulled up a map of the Korean peninsula. Ha, send them our response. Tell them we refuse. Ha raised an eyebrow. Should I be diplomatic about it? No, Ho said. Be clear. Tell them if they come to our world with weapons, they will regret it. 3 weeks later, the warships entered Earth's orbit. Stood on his bridge, watching as 10,000 of his finest warriors prepared for deployment. The Talon Guard, they were called. Elite shock troops who had never failed. Each warrior wore armor that could withstand direct hits from most weapons. Each carried plasma rifles that could melt through steel. Each had trained for decades in the art of war. Where do they have their military concentrated? Asked. Strange, replied. They have pulled back from the major cities. They have evacuated civilians from the landing zone. It appears they are retreating before we even land. Felt disappointment. He had hoped for at least some resistance. They run before they even see us. Typical prey behavior. Deploy the Talon Guard to the capital region of this South Korea peninsula. We will establish our base there and spread out to subjugate the rest of the planet. The dropships descended through Earth's atmosphere, leaving trails of fire across the sky. They landed in the heart of Seoul, the capital city that had stood for hundreds of years. The landing was perfect, textbook execution. The Talon Guard disembarked, forming up in precise military formations. Commander Vex led the first wave. He was a veteran of 50 campaigns, decorated for bravery and skill. He stepped onto human soil and looked around. The city was empty. Buildings stood silent. Streets were deserted. Not a single human in sight. "Spread out," Vex ordered through his communication system. "Secure the area, find the humans." His warriors moved through the city in organized groups. They were professionals, following protocols that had worked on countless other worlds. They expected ambushes. They expected traps. They expected resistance. What they found was silence. "This is wrong," Vex said to his second officer. "Captain, where are they?" "Perhaps they fled underground," suggested. "Some species dig warrens when faced with superior force." Vex was about to respond when the first shot rang out. The sound was sharp, loud, echoing off the buildings. One of his warriors, Lieutenant, stumbled and fell. His shield had not activated. The shot had come from above, from extreme range. "Sniper!" someone shouted. More shots followed. 3 more warriors fell before they could reach cover. Vex's trained mind calculated the angles. The shots were coming from over 2 kilometers away. That should be impossible with primitive ballistic weapons. The precision required was extraordinary. "Return fire," Vex ordered. "Target the high-rise buildings at coordinates." An explosion ripped through the street behind them. 5 warriors were thrown through the air. The blast had come from below, from the human underground tunnels they called subways. Vex realized with cold certainty that the humans had not fled. They had prepared. "All units, defensive formation," he commanded. But even as he spoke, more explosions erupted around them. Buildings that had seemed empty suddenly came alive with gunfire. Small groups of humans appeared, fired, and disappeared before they could target them. 2 kilometers away, lying on a rooftop with his rifle, Jinwoo took another shot. He had been a competitive shooter before the aliens came. Now he was something else. He watched through his scope as another alien officer fell. He adjusted his aim and fired again. Beside him, his spotter whispered, "Nice shot, that's 5. "We need to move," Jinwoo said. "They'll figure out our position soon." They packed up quickly and slipped away through the building, down to the subway tunnels where Captain Nayoung's team waited to escort them to the next position. In the tunnels, Nayoung smiled grimly as she listened to the chaos above. "They thought we would stand and fight them like soldiers in formation," she said. "They thought we would be honorable and stupid. They don't understand. We have been fighting each other for thousands of years. We know every dirty trick there is." Above ground, Commander Vex watched as his casualties mounted. In 1 hour of combat, he had lost over 200 warriors. Not to a massive army, not to superior technology, but to small groups of humans who refused to fight fair, who struck and vanished, who used their own city against them. He opened a communication to the command ship. "I request reinforcements. These humans are not what we expected." The response came quickly. "Request, Commander. You have 10,000 Talon Guard. Complete your mission." Vex closed his eyes. For the first time in his long military career, he felt something he had never felt before on a battlefield. He felt fear. 3 days had passed since the Talon Guard landed. Commander Vex stood in what used to be a human government building, now converted into his command center. His officers gathered around a holographic map of the city. Red markers showed where they had lost warriors. There were too many red markers. "Report," Vex demanded. Captain stepped forward. His armor was scorched from a recent ambush. "We have lost 1,047 warriors. The humans continue to use guerrilla tactics. They do not engage in direct combat." 1,000. Vex's voice was hard. "In 3 days we have lost 1,000 warriors to primitives." "Commander," another officer said carefully, "they are not fighting like primitives. They know this terrain perfectly. They use the buildings, the underground tunnels, the sewage systems. They appear, strike, and vanish before we can respond." Vex slammed his fist on the table, the metal dented under his strength. "They are cowards. They hide and shoot from distance. Where is their honor?" "Honor does not matter to them," said quietly. "Victory matters to them." On the other side of the city, in a hidden underground command center, General Ho watched multiple screens showing the battlefield. Each screen displayed data from different teams, different perspectives. He sipped cold coffee and studied the alien movements. "They are getting frustrated," Me said beside him. "Their casualties are mounting, and they cannot find our main forces." "Because we do not have main forces," Ho replied. "We have hundreds of small teams. Each team knows their area. Each team makes their own decisions. The aliens are looking for an army to fight, but we are not giving them an army." On one screen, Captain Nayoung's team was preparing another ambush. Ho watched as they placed explosives along a route the aliens used regularly. There were creatures of habit, he had noticed. They liked routine and procedure. "They are predictable," he said. "They patrol the same routes at the same times. They respond to attacks the same way every time. They are warriors, but they are not adaptable." Me pulled up casualty reports. "We have lost people too, 233 so far." Ho's face was grim. Each number was a name, a person, someone's family member. "I know, but we are fighting for our home. They are fighting for their pride. There is a difference." Across the city led his engineering team through the subway tunnels. They carried tools and explosives. Was a combat engineer, trained to build and destroy. Right now, he was focused on destroying. "This tunnel runs directly under their supply depot," he said to his team. "We plant the charges here, here, and here. When they bring in the next shipment, we blow it." One of his team members, a young woman named Bora, asked, "Will the tunnel collapse?" "That's the idea," said with a slight smile. "They store their supplies underground thinking it is safe, but they do not know our tunnels like we do. We built this city. We know every weakness." They worked quickly and efficiently. The aliens had sensors, but the humans had learned to avoid them. They used old methods, quiet methods. When they were done, they slipped away through the tunnels like ghosts. Above ground, Commander Vex was dealing with another problem. His warriors were running low on supplies. The drop ships that brought them down were supposed to return regularly with food, ammunition, and medical supplies. But the humans had started attacking the landing zones. "We need those supplies," Vex said to over the communication link. "My warriors are eating half rations. We have wounded who need medical attention." "Then secure the landing zones," responded. "You have thousands of warriors, use them." "Every time we concentrate forces to secure an area, the humans attack somewhere else. They are everywhere and nowhere. We spread out to cover more ground and they ambush small groups. We concentrate and they avoid us." "You are making excuses, Commander. The Talon Guard does not make excuses." The communication cut off. Vex felt anger rise in him, but also something else: respect. The humans were outmatched in every way except one. They were smarter. They adapted. They learned from every engagement. That night's team detonated their charges. The explosion was massive, collapsing 3 tunnel sections and destroying the supply depot above. Flames shot into the sky, lighting up the darkness. Hundreds of tons of supplies went up in smoke. They responded immediately, sending teams to investigate. But the humans were already gone, moving through tunnels the aliens did not even know existed. Jinwoo was on another rooftop, watching the flames through his scope. His mission tonight was different. He was not looking for targets. He was observing how the aliens responded to the explosion. Every piece of information mattered. He watched as warriors rushed to the scene in a specific formation. They secured the perimeter in a predictable pattern. He took notes, recording everything. Tomorrow, this information would be used to plan another attack. They never change their tactics, his spotter whispered. Same response every time. That is their weakness, Jinwoo replied. They are trained well, but they are trained for one type of war. We are showing them a different type. By the end of the first week, Vex had lost 2,000 warriors. His forces were down to 8,000. He stood alone in his command center late at night, studying human tactics. The more he learned, the more he understood. The humans had been fighting wars for their entire history, not just against aliens, but against each other. They had thousands of years of experience with every type of combat. Guerrilla warfare, siege warfare, urban combat, psychological operations. Every dirty trick, every clever strategy, they had used it all before. They fought for honor and glory. The humans fought to win. There was no honor in their tactics, but there was effectiveness. They used snipers to take out officers from impossible distances. They used traps and explosives. They poisoned water supplies. They spread false information to cause confusion. They attacked supply lines instead of strong points. Vex realized something that made his blood run cold. The humans were not fighting to defeat the Talon Guard. They were fighting to make the victory so costly that they would think twice about sending more forces. They were sending a message to the entire collective. "Captain," he called out. Entered the command center. He looked tired. They all looked tired now. "Yes, Commander." "How long can we sustain current operations with our remaining supplies?" Checked his data pad. 2 weeks, maybe 3 if we continue rationing. But morale is becoming a problem. The warriors are frustrated. They want to fight a real battle, not this constant harassment. "Contact the remaining squad leaders," Vex ordered. "Tell them to pull back to defensive positions. We fortify our base and wait for reinforcements." "Commander ordered us to advance and subjugate the planet." "I know what he ordered," Vex snapped. "But I will not waste more warriors on this strategy. We pull back, we fortify, and we survive until help arrives." But help was not coming. On the command ship was dealing with his own problems. The Council had his request for additional forces. They saw it as weakness. The Talon Guard had never needed reinforcements before. They should be able to conquer one primitive planet easily. "The humans are making fools of us," said to Officer. "Every day that passes without victory damages our reputation." "Perhaps we should authorize Commander Vex to use the orbital bombardment," suggested. Considered it. Orbital bombardment would flatten the cities and break human resistance, but it would also destroy the planet's infrastructure and kill millions of civilians. The conquered worlds to add them to their empire, not to destroy them. "No," decided. "The Council wants this planet intact. We proceed as planned." Down on Earth in her underground command center, Captain Nayoung received new orders. Her team was to probe the defensive positions, test their strength, and find weaknesses. She gathered her team of 30 soldiers. "They are pulling back," she told them. "They are going defensive. This is good for us. When they spread out, we attack. When they concentrate, we wait and prepare. Now they have given us time." One of her soldiers asked, "What are we preparing for?" Nayoung smiled. It was not a nice smile. "The final battle. General Ho is planning something. We just need to keep the aliens busy until he is ready." Commander Vex stood at the window of his command center, looking out at the human city. It was dark now. The aliens had destroyed the power grid in the first day, but somehow the humans adapted. They used generators, batteries, even fire for light. They kept going. He touched his communication device and began recording a message. "Personal log, Commander Vex. Day 7 of the Earth campaign. Current casualties, 2,115 warriors. We came to this world expecting primitives. We found survivors. We expected easy victory. We found determination. These humans are dangerous not because they are strong, but because they refuse to quit. Note to future commanders, never underestimate humans." They are the most stubborn species I have ever encountered. He stopped recording and looked at the stars. Somewhere up there, the council was debating their next move. Down here, Vex knew the truth. The Talon Guard was not winning. They were surviving. And each day, the humans learned more about how to kill them. 2 weeks after the landing, General Ho stood in front of a large tactical map. Red circles marked the current positions of the forces. They had pulled back to the industrial district, turning the old factories into a fortified base. It was exactly what Ho had been waiting for. "They have concentrated their remaining forces here," he said to his senior commanders. Mi, Nuyung, Jinwoo, and all stood around the table. "They are tired, low on supplies, and frustrated. They think they are being smart by going defensive. They are wrong." Mi pulled up new data. "Doctor has finished analyzing the bodies we recovered. She found something important about their shields." Doctor entered the room. She was someone who studied alien life. She had spent the last 2 weeks examining dead warriors, studying their technology and biology. She looked tired but excited. "Their shields are impressive," she began. "They can stop energy weapons and high-speed projectiles, but they have a weakness. The shields work on a specific frequency. They are designed to block fast-moving objects and energy bursts." "So how do we beat them?" Ho asked. "Low-frequency weapons," explained. "Their shields are like a wall that stops bullets, but sound waves, pressure waves, chemical agents, these things pass through. The shields were designed to fight enemies like themselves, not creative problem solvers like humans." Ho smiled slowly. "So their greatest defense is useless against the right weapons." "Exactly," confirmed. "I recommend thermobaric weapons. They create pressure waves that will pass through the shields and destroy internal organs. Also chemical weapons, though those are controversial." "These aliens came to enslave our planet," Ho said flatly. "I am not worried about controversy. Mi, what do we have available?" Mi checked her inventory lists. "We have access to thermobaric missiles and artillery shells. We also have chemical weapons, though we have never used them in modern warfare. They are stored in old military facilities." "Prepare everything," Ho ordered. "We have one chance to end this. If we fail, more aliens will come. We need to send a message so clear that they never want to return to Earth." Across the city in the industrial district, Commander Vex was dealing with his own problems. His warriors were down to 6,000. Food was running low. Medical supplies were almost gone. The wounded lay in makeshift hospitals, groaning in pain. Captain approached him with more bad news. "Commander, we intercepted human communications. They are planning a major attack." "When?" Vex asked. "Unknown, but they are moving forces into position around us. They have us surrounded." Vex looked at the tactical display. The humans had been quiet for 3 days. No ambushes, no snipers, no explosions. He had thought they were regrouping. Now he realized they were preparing something big. "Increase patrols, double the guards, get every warrior ready for combat." "Commander," said carefully, "perhaps we should request evacuation. We could retreat to the ships and bombard the planet from orbit." "The Council would see that as defeat," Vex said bitterly. "We stay, we fight, we win or we die. Those are our only options." That night, Lieutenant Ross sat in a signals intelligence station, listening to communications. She was an expert in alien languages, quickly learning the tongue. She heard the fear in Commander Vex's voice as he gave orders. She heard the doubt in the warriors' responses. "They know something is coming," she reported to General Ho. "They are scared." "Good," Ho said. "Fear makes mistakes. We attack at dawn." Before dawn, thousands of human soldiers moved into position. They surrounded the industrial district completely. Artillery units set up their guns. Missile launchers were aimed at the target coordinates. Chemical weapon teams prepared their equipment, though they hoped not to use them. Jinwoo and his sniper team were positioned on the tallest building overlooking the district. Through his scope, he could see warriors moving in the early morning darkness. They knew an attack was coming, but they did not know when or how. Captain Nuyung led a ground force of 500 soldiers. They would move in after the bombardment to finish any survivors. She checked her equipment one last time and waited for the signal. In his command center, General Ho looked at the clock. 0500 hours. He picked up the radio and spoke one word: fire. The artillery officer was named One. He was a career soldier who had served for 20 years. He had fired artillery in training exercises hundreds of times, but never like this. Never with the fate of humanity riding on his orders. "All batteries fire," he commanded. The artillery roared to life. Shells arced through the morning sky, leaving trails of smoke. They were not regular explosive shells. They were thermobaric weapons designed to create massive pressure waves. When they hit, the explosions were different from normal bombs. They created fireballs that sucked the oxygen from the air, followed by crushing pressure waves. The shields activated automatically, blocking the shrapnel and fire, but the pressure waves passed right through. Warriors grabbed their heads and fell, their internal organs rupturing from the pressure. Those inside buildings had it worse. The pressure waves bounced off walls, creating multiple crushing impacts. Commander Vex felt the first explosion and knew immediately what was happening. "Shields are useless," he shouted into his communicator. "Take cover in the deepest parts of the buildings. Get underground." But there was nowhere to hide. The bombardment continued for 15 minutes. One's artillery batteries fired over 200 rounds. Each explosion killed or wounded dozens of warriors. Their advanced armor and shields, which had protected them on hundreds of battlefields, were useless against this type of weapon. When the artillery stopped, chemical shells followed. Nerve agents and poison gas flooded into the buildings. They had breathing filters, but the humans knew this. They used agents that could be absorbed through skin. Warriors who survived the bombardment began convulsing as the chemicals entered their bodies. From his position, Jinwoo watched through his scope. He felt no joy, only grim necessity. They had come to conquer Earth. They would have enslaved or killed every human. This was not cruelty. This was survival. When the bombardment finally ended, silence fell over the industrial district. Smoke rose from hundreds of fires. Buildings were collapsed or heavily damaged. General Ho waited for 10 minutes, then gave the next order. "Ground forces advance, show caution, check every corner." Captain Nuyung led her soldiers forward. They moved carefully, weapons ready. The scene was devastation. Bodies lay everywhere, some killed by the pressure waves, others by the chemicals, still others by collapsing buildings. They found Commander Vex in what used to be a factory control room. He was wounded, his armor cracked, his breathing labored. Around him lay the bodies of his officers. He held a weapon, but he did not raise it as the humans entered. "Commander Vex," Nuyung said in the language. The aliens looked surprised that she could speak their tongue. "You learned our language," Vex said, his voice weak. "We have been listening since you arrived," Nuyung replied. She lowered her weapon slightly but kept it ready. "Why did you come to our world?" "Orders," Vex said simply. "We conquer, that is what to do. You are weak. You are supposed to be easy prey." "We are weak," Nuyung agreed. "Compared to you, we are small and fragile. We have no natural weapons or armor, but we have something you do not have." "What is that?" "Experience fighting wars," she said. "You have conquered hundreds of worlds, but those worlds did not have thousands of years of warfare history like we do. Every tactic you used, we have seen before. We used those same tactics against each other for centuries. You brought warriors to fight soldiers. Warriors care about honor and glory. Soldiers care about going home alive." Vex coughed and blue blood came from his mouth. He was dying and he knew it. "How many of us are left?" "Our estimates say less than 3,000, Nuyung replied honestly. 3,000 from 10,000, Vex said quietly. We were the best. The Talon Guard had never failed. Now we are destroyed by primitives with chemical weapons. Not primitives, Nayang corrected. Humans, remember that word. Tell your people if any of you survive. Vex reached slowly for his wrist device. Nayang's soldiers raised their weapons, but Vex made no threatening moves. He activated something and began recording. This is Commander Vex of the Talon Guard. I am transmitting all tactical data from this campaign to any commander who receives this. Do not underestimate humans. They are not primitives, they are survivors. They adapt faster than any species we have encountered. They use tactics we have never seen. Their weapons are inferior, but their strategies are superior. They fight without honor, and that makes them more dangerous. He paused, coughing again. I am setting this to auto-transmit to the entire network. Every conquered world, every military base, every ship. Let everyone see what happened here. Let them see how the mighty Talon Guard was destroyed. Why? Nayang asked. Why would you want your people to see this failure? Vex looked at her with his 4 eyes. Because maybe, just maybe, it will make them think twice before attacking your world again. And maybe, he paused, maybe the other species in our empire will see that they are not invincible. Maybe they will find hope. He made a final adjustment to his device and then looked at Nayang. I am ready, make it quick. Nayang nodded. She raised her weapon and it was over quickly. Commander Vex, leader of the Talon Guard, died in a ruined factory on an alien world, defeated by an enemy he had underestimated. As the sun rose over Seoul, human soldiers moved through the industrial district, searching for survivors. They found some, wounded and helpless. These were taken prisoner. The rest were dead. In his command center, General Ho received the final casualty report. 6,800 warriors dead. Over 1,000 taken prisoner. Fewer than 200 escaped into the surrounding area, where they would be hunted down in the coming days. The Talon Guard, the elite of the military, had been destroyed. None would return home to tell the tale of what happened on Earth. But Commander Vex's final transmission was already spreading across the galaxy, and the message it carried would change everything. There was a planet of red stone and tall spires. In the Grand Council chamber stood before the assembled leaders of the collective. The chamber was ancient, built from the bones of their first conquered enemy species. It was meant to inspire fear and demonstrate power. Today, it was filled with confusion and anger. Explain, the High Commander demanded. She was the oldest member of the council, her scales from 100 battles. Explain how 10,000 Talon Guard warriors were defeated by primitives. Stood straight, though inside he felt the weight of failure. The humans were not as primitive as our scans indicated. They used guerrilla warfare tactics. They attacked supply lines and used weapons specifically designed to bypass our shields. You said they were weak, another council member accused. You said this would be an easy conquest. Our intelligence was incomplete, admitted. The humans have thousands of years of warfare experience. They fight each other constantly. Every tactic we know, they invented while fighting themselves. The High Commander brought up the holographic data that Commander Vex had transmitted before his death. The entire council watched the recordings. They saw human snipers picking off officers from impossible distances. They saw small teams of humans using explosives and ambush tactics. They saw the final bombardment that destroyed the Talon Guard. The chamber was silent when the recordings ended. This is a disaster, the High Commander said quietly. The Talon Guard has never been defeated. Never, and now, she gestured at the data, this will spread throughout the galaxy. Every species we have conquered will see this. They will see that we can be beaten. We must respond with overwhelming force, insisted. Send a full invasion fleet. Glass the planet from orbit. Show everyone that defying them has consequences. No, the High Commander said firmly. That would make us look weak. It would show that we need massive force to defeat one small planet. It would prove the humans are as dangerous as Commander Vex claimed. Then what do we do? Another council member asked. The High Commander thought for a long moment. We open diplomatic channels. We offer peace. The council chamber erupted in protests. Warriors did not negotiate from weakness. They conquered or they died trying. But the High Commander raised her hand for silence. Listen to me, she commanded. We have 847 conquered worlds. If they all rebel at once, we cannot hold them. This human victory will inspire resistance. We must show that we are reasonable, that we can make peace. We offer the humans a deal. They get to keep their independence if they do not interfere with the collective. That is surrender, said bitterly. No, the High Commander replied. That is survival, and we send a message to all our conquered worlds. We tell them that we offered peace and the humans accepted. We make it seem like a diplomatic victory, not a military defeat. On Earth, 3 days after the final battle, Ambassador Ha stood in the ruins of Seoul. Workers were already clearing rubble and beginning repairs. Humanity had won, but the cost had been high. 5,000 human soldiers had died in the 3-week war. Millions of civilians had been displaced. The city was heavily damaged. But they were free. That was what mattered. A communication came through from the command ship still in orbit. Wanted to talk. Ha gathered her team, including General Ho and Doctor, in a secure conference room. The holographic image of appeared. He looked different from the arrogant warrior who had first contacted Earth. He looked tired and cautious. Ambassador Ha, he began formally, I am authorized by the Council to negotiate a peace agreement. Peace, Ha said. You came to conquer us. You brought an army to enslave our world. Now you want peace. We underestimated your capabilities, admitted. The words clearly hurt him to say. The collective does not wish for prolonged conflict. We offer a non-aggression pact. You maintain your independence. We leave your system. In return, you do not attack territories or interfere with our operations. Ha looked at Ho, who shook his head slightly. She turned back to, not good enough. His eyes narrowed. You are in no position to make demands. We still have ships in orbit. We could destroy your cities from space. You could, Ha agreed. But you won't, because Commander Vex's transmission has already reached every corner of your empire. Every conquered species knows what happened here. If you destroy Earth now, you prove that one small planet hurt you so badly that you had to annihilate it. You prove we won. The alien was silent for a long moment. What do you want? Freedom for all species in your empire, Ha said clearly. Release every conquered world. Give them the choice to join you voluntarily or leave. Then we will talk about peace. Impossible, said immediately. The collective will never agree to that. We would lose everything we have built. Then there is no peace, Ha replied. You can leave our system now or we can shoot down your ships. Doctor has been studying your technology. We know how your shields work now. We can adapt. Looked at her with something like respect. You would risk total war for species you have never met. Yes, Ha said simply. Because that is what humans do. We fight for the underdog. Commander Vex understood that before he died. Your people fight for glory and honor. We fight for what is right. There is a difference. You are making a mistake, warned. The Council will not accept your terms. More fleets will come. Let them come, General Ho spoke up. We will be ready. And every time you send warriors, we will send them back in body bags. Eventually, you will run out of warriors before we run out of determination. The transmission ended. Image vanished. Ha looked at her team. Well, that went about as expected, she said. He will report back to his council, Ho said. They will debate. Meanwhile, we prepare for the next attack. But the next attack did not come. Days turned into weeks. The ships remained in orbit but made no hostile moves. and across the galaxy, something unexpected was happening. Lieutenant Ra was monitoring signals from across the Empire when she noticed unusual communication patterns. She called for Hyand Ho immediately. "I am picking up transmissions from multiple controlled worlds," she explained. "They are organizing. The conquered species are starting to resist." She played back intercepted messages. On a world called, the native population had begun sabotaging facilities. On another world called, workers were going on strike, refusing to produce goods for the military. On a third world, resistance fighters were ambushing patrols. "They saw what we did," Ha said slowly. "Commander Vex transmitted everything. Every conquered species now knows that they can be beaten. We gave them hope." "We also gave them a blueprint," Ho added. "They saw our tactics. They saw that superior technology can be beaten with smart strategy. They are copying our methods." Doctor pulled up a galactic map showing all the controlled worlds. Red indicators were appearing on dozens of planets. The Empire is facing simultaneous rebellions. They cannot send forces to all these worlds at once. In his office alone, watched the same data. The situation was spiraling out of control. The military was spread thin, responding to uprisings on multiple worlds. Resources were being diverted everywhere, and it was all because of one small blue planet. He received a communication from the High Commander. Her face appeared on his screen, and she looked older than before. "The Council has made a decision," she said wearily. "We are offering Earth a new deal. We will grant independence to 10 worlds of their choosing. We will reduce military presence on 20 others. In return, Earth stops encouraging rebellion and agrees to a non-aggression pact." "That is weakness," said. "That is reality," the High Commander corrected. "We cannot fight the entire galaxy at once. We give a little now to prevent losing everything later." Transmitted the new offer to Earth. Ha received it and brought together the United Nations Council. Representatives from every nation on Earth gathered to discuss the proposal. 10 worlds is not enough," the representative from Africa said. "They control hundreds." "But it is a start," the representative from Europe countered. 10 worlds will be free because of us." Ha stood at the head of the table. "The question is not whether we accept this deal. The question is whether we push for more or risk open war. Every day we delay, more species rebel against the. We have time on our side." General Ho agreed. "They are trying to cut their losses. They offer us 10 worlds, hoping we will stop there, but we do not have to stop. We can continue supporting the rebellions without direct intervention." "That is a dangerous game," Me warned. "If we push too hard, they might decide total war is their only option." "They won't," Doctor said. "I have studied their culture extensively. The value strength above all. Right now, they look weak. If they attack Earth again and lose again, they will look even weaker. Their best option is to make peace with us and suppress the other rebellions quietly." Ha made her decision. "We accept their offer of 10 worlds, but we make it clear that this is just the first step. We expect more concessions over time, and we make one additional demand." "What demand?" Ho asked. Ha smiled. "We want them to establish an embassy on Earth, and we want to establish embassies on their worlds. We want cultural exchange, trade, and open communication. We turn our enemy into our neighbor." "They will never agree to that," Me said. "They will," Ha countered, "because it makes them look strong. They will tell their people that they are civilizing the humans, bringing them into galactic society. Meanwhile, every conquered species will see that humans have access to worlds. They will see that Earth stands equal to the collective. It will inspire more resistance." It was a clever plan. Turn diplomatic victory into strategic advantage. And it worked. 3 weeks later, they accepted Earth's terms. 10 worlds were granted independence. An embassy was established in Geneva. Earth sent its first ambassadors to. The war was over. Humanity had won. but more importantly, they had planted seeds of rebellion across the galaxy. Commander Vex's final transmission had done more damage to the Empire than any army could have. The Talon Guard had been destroyed, and from their ashes a new era was beginning. 6 months had passed since the fleet left Earth's orbit. The city of Sol was being rebuilt, better and stronger than before. But the real changes were happening across the galaxy, far from the blue planet that had started it all. Ambassador Ha stood in her office at the United Nations headquarters, looking at reports from across the Empire. Each report told a similar story. The conquered species were fighting back. Some used violence, others used peaceful resistance, but all of them were inspired by Earth's victory. The people have taken control of 3 major cities, she read from one report. The garrison rather than fight. The workers successfully negotiated for better conditions. They needed their production too much to refuse. General Ho entered her office carrying more reports. He looked satisfied. They are losing control. They are having to negotiate with species they used to rule absolutely. It is beautiful to watch. How many worlds have gained independence since we forced their hand? Ha asked. 43, Ho replied. They granted independence to 10 as part of our deal. The rest took it by force or negotiation. The empire is crumbling. Ha felt pride but also caution. We started something big. I hope we can handle the consequences. The consequences are freedom, Ho said firmly. For hundreds of species, that is worth any risk. The situation in the Grand Council chamber was tense. The High Commander looked at her fellow council members, seeing fear and anger in their eyes. The collective had ruled for centuries. Now it was falling apart. We have lost 63 worlds, reported. His voice was hollow. He had aged in the past months, the weight of failure crushing him. Another 100 are in active rebellion. We do not have enough military forces to suppress them all. This is what the humans wanted, one council member accused. They deliberately spread revolution. They weaponized hope. Yes, the High Commander agreed. And it worked. Commander Vex's transmission showed every conquered species that we can be beaten. The humans showed them how. Now we are reaping what we sowed with centuries of oppression. We should destroy Earth, another member suggested. Make an example, show the galaxy what happens to those who defy us. We tried that, said bitterly. We sent the Talon Guard, they were destroyed. If we send more forces and fail again, we will look even weaker, and we cannot guarantee victory. The humans have had 6 months to prepare. They have studied our technology, they have built defenses. The High Commander made a decision. We accept the new reality. The Empire is over. We transition to a federation. Worlds can choose to stay with us or leave. Those who stay get equal representation in a new government structure. That is surrender, someone protested. That is survival, the High Commander corrected. We evolve or we die. The humans taught us that lesson. On Earth, a new building stood in Geneva next to the United Nations headquarters. It was the Galactic Relations Center, Earth's gateway to the wider universe. Inside, Ambassador Ha met with representatives from newly independent worlds. The ambassador was a small, furry creature with large eyes. She bowed to Ha. Our people owe you a great debt. Without your example, we would still be slaves. You freed yourselves, Ha said kindly. We only showed you it was possible. Other ambassadors echoed similar sentiments. The all species that had been conquered by the all now free. They looked to Earth as a symbol of resistance and hope. But not everyone was celebrating. Doctor entered Ha's office with a worried expression. We have a problem. Some of the newly freed species are forming military alliances. They want revenge against they are talking about invasion. Ha felt her stomach sink. That would be a disaster. It would turn into the victims. It would justify their fear and aggression. I know, said, but can we blame them? Some of these species were enslaved for generations. They have legitimate grievances. Ha called an emergency meeting of the newly formed Galactic Council. Representatives from Earth and 30 other worlds gathered in the new council chamber. The ambassador spoke first. They must pay for their crimes. They conquered our worlds, enslaved our people, destroyed our cultures. Justice demands retribution. Others agreed loudly, but Ha raised her hand for silence. I understand your anger. They did terrible things, but revenge will not heal your wounds. It will only create new ones. Easy for you to say, the ambassador replied. They occupied your world for only 3 weeks. They occupied ours for 300 years. You are right, Ha admitted. We cannot fully understand your pain, but we can learn from history. On Earth, we have fought countless wars of revenge. Each one created more hatred, more violence, more suffering. The cycle only ended when someone chose peace instead. They do not deserve peace, someone shouted. Maybe not, Ha agreed. But your people deserve a future that is not defined by hatred. You have a choice. You can become like the conquering and seeking revenge, or you can become something better. General Ho stood beside Ha. The humans did not win because we were stronger. We won because we were smarter. We adapted. We used their expectations against them. If you attack the now, you give them what they understand: war. You let them fight on their terms. Instead, force them to adapt to a new reality. Force them to become peaceful. The chamber fell silent. The representatives thought about what Ha and Ho had said. Finally, the ambassador spoke again. What do you propose? Ha pulled up a document. A galactic treaty. All species agree to ban wars of conquest. Disputes are settled through negotiation and arbitration. We create a defense pact. If any species is attacked, all others come to their aid. This way, aggressive empires like the cannot rise again. And what about justice for past crimes? The ambassador asked. We create a Truth and Reconciliation Commission, Ha said. They must publicly acknowledge their crimes. They must make reparations to the species they harmed. But we focus on healing, not punishment. We give them a path to redemption. It took weeks of debate, but eventually the treaty was signed. 52 species agreed to the terms, including, reluctantly, the collective. The old empire was officially dissolved. In its place emerged the Galactic Federation, with Earth as one of its founding members. Now demoted to ambassador, came to Earth for the signing ceremony. He met with Ha privately before the event. You have destroyed everything my people built, he said. There was no anger in his voice, only sadness. We destroyed an empire built on conquest, Ha replied. But we are offering you something better, a chance to be part of a galactic community, not its master. My people will struggle with this, admitted. We are warriors. We define ourselves by strength and conquest. Then find new ways to be strong, Ha suggested. Protect instead of conquer, build instead of destroy. Earth has many warriors. We channel their skills into defense and peacekeeping. They can do the same. Was silent for a moment. Commander Vex was right about you. You are dangerous, not because you are strong, but because you make us question everything we believe. Is that so bad? Ha asked with a slight smile. I do not know yet, replied honestly. Ask me in 100 years. The signing ceremony was held in the rebuilt city of Seoul, in the very industrial district where the Talon Guard had made their last stand. A memorial had been built there, honoring both the humans and the who had died in the battle. It was a controversial choice, but Ha insisted. We honor the dead, she explained to critics, because they were all victims of war. The warriors did not choose to invade our world. They followed orders. They fought bravely, even in a war that should never have happened. We can respect the warriors while condemning the war. At the memorial there was a wall with names. 5,000 human names, 10,000 names. At the top, one sentence was carved in a dozen languages. May their deaths teach us the cost of war and the value of peace. After the signing ceremony, Ha visited the memorial alone. She read the names, thinking about the lives lost. Among the names, she found Commander Vex. She touched the carved letters gently. "Thank you," she whispered. "Your final transmission changed everything. You lost the battle but helped us win the peace." 1 year after the Talon Guard's defeat, Earth launched its first interstellar ship. It was not a warship. It was a diplomatic vessel named New Dawn. Its mission was to visit the newly independent worlds and help them rebuild. Captain Nayung commanded the ship. She had been promoted after her service in the war. Many of her crew were veterans who had fought against the. Now they would work to build friendships with former enemies. "Strange how things change," Nayung said to her first officer, Jinwoo. The former sniper now served as tactical officer. "A year ago we were killing, now we are helping them." "Not helping the same ones we killed," Jinwoo replied. "We are helping their children build a better future. There is a difference." The New Dawn visited dozens of worlds. Everywhere they went, humans were greeted as heroes. But Ha had given them clear instructions: be humble, be helpful, but never be arrogant. Earth had won one battle, but they had much to learn from the galaxy. On the ship's maiden voyage, they visited itself. Captain Nayung and her crew walked through the alien capital, seeing the red stone spires and ancient architecture. The people stared at them with a mixture of fear, respect, and curiosity. Nayung gave a speech at the military academy. She stood before 1,000 young warriors and told them the truth about the battle for Earth. "Your Talon Guard were brave," she said. "They fought with honor and skill, but they were sent to fight a war that should never have happened. They died because their leaders underestimated an enemy and overestimated their own power. Learn from their mistake. True strength is knowing when not to fight." One young cadet asked a question. "How did you defeat warriors who were bigger, stronger, and better armed than you?" Nayung smiled. "We did not try to be stronger, we tried to be smarter. We used our weakness as an advantage. Because we were small and fragile, the Talon Guard did not take us seriously. That was their mistake and our opportunity. Remember this lesson: never underestimate your opponent based on appearances." The visit, too, was successful. It did not erase centuries of aggression, but it was a first step toward reconciliation. Back on Earth in her office, Ambassador Ha received a message from Lieutenant Ra, who now headed the Signals Intelligence Division. "Ambassador, you need to see this. We have been monitoring communications across the galaxy. Species are using Earth as a model. They are forming democracies, establishing rights for their citizens, limiting military power. They are copying our governmental systems." Ha felt both pride and responsibility. "We have become an example. That means we must be very careful about what kind of example we set." "There is something else," Ra continued. "Some species want Earth to lead a defensive alliance. They want us to be the military power that protects against future threats." "No," Ha said immediately. "We are not going to become the new collective. We protect ourselves and our allies, but we do not seek to dominate. Make that clear in all our communications." She looked out her window at the rebuilt city. Earth had changed in 1 year. They were no longer an isolated planet. They were part of a galactic community. With that came opportunities and dangers. Ha thought about Commander Vex's final words. He had transmitted the battle data, hoping it would prevent future wars. In a way, he had succeeded. His death had sparked a revolution, not of violence but of ideas. The galaxy was changing, not because Earth conquered it, but because Earth inspired it. 10 years later, historians would call this period the Great Awakening. Dozens of species gained freedom. Hundreds of worlds joined the Galactic Federation. The age of conquest empires ended, replaced by an era of cooperation and mutual defense. And it all started because one small planet refused to surrender. Because humans, those fragile, stubborn, creative survivors, showed the galaxy that technology and strength were not everything. Adaptability, determination, and the willingness to fight for what was right, these were the true measures of power. The Talon Guard came to Earth expecting an easy victory. None returned to share their fate, but their sacrifice, especially Commander Vex's final transmission, changed the galaxy forever. They lost the battle but helped win the peace. And on Earth, in the Memorial Garden in Seoul, new names were added each year. Not names of the dead, but names of worlds that gained freedom. It was a reminder that the cost of war was high, but the price of peace was vigilance, compassion, and the courage to fight for others. Humanity had announced itself to the galaxy, not as conquerors but as defenders, not as masters but as equals. And the stars, which once seemed so distant and dangerous, now held promise and hope.